Howdy! Welcome back to another time-sticking YouTube video. Once again, I'm Jake, and today we're going to be talking about watches that made it into the White House. So, stick with us through this intro, and we're going to be looking at some presidential timepieces. Now, most of the watches we're going to highlight today come from the 20th century, especially the middle and up, where men's wristwatches became more popular than pocket watches. However, we're going to dip back a little bit further to start with one particular top hat wearing president. Being one of the more famous former presidents in history, Abraham Lincoln's timepieces have probably received just as much press as any 20th and 21st century president. Two particular pocket watches of note are his Waltham model 1857 and his Chicago-made gold pocket watch from 1850. Both timepieces are currently in the Smithsonian and have some unique history. Lincoln's 1857 Waltham was a piece fitting for its time. It was gifted to him immediately after his famed Gettysburg Address and was the product of a growing mass production industry in watchmaking in the United States. 4 years beyond the Waltham, Lincoln's gold pocket watch, purchased in Chicago, Illinois in 1850, got inscribed with a watchmaker's now historical commentary on the Civil War. On April 13, 1861, one day after the attack on Fort Sumter, Lincoln sent his watch in to be fixed by one Jonathan Dillon. Dillon was inspired by the recently elected president's piece to inscribe a message. This message was left unread by the 16th president, and no one knew of it until 40 years later, when Dillon confessed to his inscription. In 2009, the Smithsonian opened the watch to verify the inscription. It essentially reads, "Thank God we have a government." For someone whose presidency addressed slavery, it seems fitting that this message was received with the first African-American president in the Big C. Moving forward into post-World War II America, there started to become a trend for certain watch brands to appear on presidential wrists. Before Rolex was spoken of as America's presidential watch, there was the brand Vulcain. The tradition of wearing this brand was handed down for some years, bestowing the title of presidential to Vulcain alongside Rolex to this day. With most presidents owning more than one watch aside from their Rolex or Vulcain, if they own either brand at all, it's difficult to summarize the details of each piece. So ahead we've got some quick bullet points down for the most well-known pieces, from Truman to DJT. Our first bullet point or president for the day is going to be Harry S. Truman. Though Harry S. Truman was known to wear other timepieces, his main piece was a Vulcain cricket. His employment of the piece would start a tradition of wearing Vulcain among future US presidents. Next down the line is Dwight D. Eisenhower. Eisenhower's Rolex Datejust appeared on the cover of Life magazine, birthing the title presidential for Rolex. However, he mostly wore his Vulcain while at work. President John F. Kennedy now hits our list, and he enjoyed many luxurious timepieces while in office. Stepping away from Vulcain, he wore a square-cased Omega on the campaign trail. Stirring some controversy, he later owned a Rolex Day-Date in his collection, supposedly gifted by Marilyn Monroe. This piece was made with 18-karat gold and fits well into Rolex's ties to the White House, regardless of where it came from. Another president of note when it comes to wristwatches is Lyndon B. Johnson, or LBJ. LBJ's Rolex Day-Date is the one that truly deepened and earned Rolex's presidential watch title, or at least solidified it in the minds of Americans. He also owned a Vulcain cricket like Harry S. Truman and Eisenhower, and others before him. To get up at least through the 1980s, Ronald Reagan was also known to wear some pretty fancy wristwatches. The Gipper was no stranger to being in front of a camera, and he enjoyed Rolex watches. Reagan was mostly photographed with Datejust watches, much like Eisenhower's presidential watch. Though he likely sported a variety of pieces over his tenure as Prez, Rolex was a common theme in his wardrobe. Now, we've obviously skipped ahead quite a bit through history, but it can be pretty difficult to pinpoint exact timepieces, or at the very least find significant information about particular presidential watches, especially since television and other media had an effect on this sort of culture. Indeed, the most famed presidents often get the most attention paid to their wardrobes in a big way. Most presidents followed suit regarding fashion in relation to other popular presidents. Electability is important. Even Nixon stayed in the Vulcain lane through his presidency. Following in JFK's footsteps, at least in fashion, he was also rumored to have an Omega Speedmaster, with ties to the Apollo 11 mission. Moving from the 1980s into the 1990s and beyond, presidential watches started to take on a bit of a different feel. Bill Clinton famously wore a Timex Ironman on his campaign trail and through the beginning of his presidency. While the everyman style held up for him for a while, he eventually switched to a swath of luxury watches including Cartier and Panerai. His move toward a more common man wristwatch during his campaign set a new precedent in how potential presidents promote themselves to the public in terms of watches. His influence was felt in the following administration, where George W. Bush wore a Timex Quartz analog watch. The everyman style was quite different from the middle of the 20th century, thanks to modern electronic timekeeping. Barack Obama went on to wear fitness tracker watches, as well as a Tag Heuer, Jory Gray 6500, which, compared to a Rolex, the Tag is still a middle-of-the-road timepiece regarding relative cost. His smartwatch collection is indicative of current middle-class timekeeping trends here in the US of A. Donald Trump, the current president as of this post, has rarely been seen wearing a timepiece since he won his bid. It could very well be he's trying to downplay his fortune as he continues to take up residence in the Oval Office. However, on the campaign trail, the Donald sported a Vacheron Constantin Historiques Ultrafine 1968. That particular piece is a pretty far cry from a Timex. Honestly, even most Rolexes. However, in true presidential fashion, he has been photographed wearing a Rolex Day-Date in the past. As we move into 2020, plenty of candidates are likely going to be under heavy scrutiny in terms of their fashion. The scrutiny almost always inevitably leads to conversations on the monetary cost of their fashion. No matter who's voting for who, a wristwatch is going to undoubtedly say a lot about the next commander-in-chief. As you might have already noticed, we didn't cover every single president in US history. Is there a particular president that you'd like to see covered? Or is there a presidential watch you already know about? Let us know in the comments below. And also, hopefully you're digging the new set. Hello, and thanks for watching our YouTube video today. If you enjoyed it, please give it a like, and you can find similar videos right here. For more new and interesting content from Times Ticking on our channel, please subscribe at the link here. And for more information about wristwatch repair and watch maintenance generally, you can find us at timesticking.com. Thanks so much and have a great day.